Hi everyone, welcome to class. I'm Dr. Carnes, and this is just a quick video to go over our syllabus together. Let me share our screen for you so you can take a look at it. If you have not accessed Blackboard yet, now is a really good time to do that. So here's where you can find the syllabus if you don't have it already. You want to get on Blackboard right here. You can log in with your KCKCC email. There's mine right there. Um, my email address is also on the syllabus for you. So you will find your courses over here. This is us. So you will find each week of class in a module right here on Blackboard. The very first module outside of week one is Harmon course information. You can find all kinds of information about me and about our class right there. I also have our syllabus and a couple of appendices for the syllabi, which you will actually need because there are some decisions I'd like you to make kind of early in the class right there. So there it is. There's our syllabus. I've already got it open right here so we can take a look at it. Okay, here's our class. We will be meeting twice a week, but it will be hybrid. So you will be working independently on Blackboard once each week. So during that time, I really expect you to do the reading. I know that a lot of times you can get away with not doing that in a class. In this class, we will not have time to cover everything during lecture. I'll kind of do my best to cover the more complicated topics during lecture, but there will be a lot on the exams that you will miss if you are not doing the reading. So I'll want to make sure that you have time to do that on the day that you're working asynchronously and also just work through those modules. So each week, click on the module, see what's in there. Sometimes there will be a quiz over the reading. Most of the time, it will just be the reading and a writing assignment, which we will practice as we go along. But you will be responsible for making sure that you're completing everything in the module by the end of the week. Everything is always going to be due by Sunday night at midnight if you're turning it in online. So that's us. This is my email address. If you ever need to find me, I usually try to respond to that within one business day, 24 hours. I can be a lot quicker than that when I need to be, but I will let you know if I'm going to be a little bit slow, like if I'm going to be traveling over a weekend or something like that. But for the most part, I'm pretty quick with email. So use that. Here's our grade breakdown. That may change a little bit as I will add or subtract quizzes, kind of based on whether I feel like people are doing the reading and they're getting everything they need. The quiz will usually just cover the reading. So that's why the point value may change by the end of the class. But this is a rough estimate based on how many quizzes are on Blackboard right now. For the most part, the big chunks of your grade are exams, a midterm exam and a final exam. Both are two-parters, so there's a multiple choice and an essay section, which we will practice together, so don't worry about those. Um, Happening halfway through the semester and then at the end, which is pretty typical of a college class that you kind of have these two exams. But you'll also have writing assignments throughout the semester. I will offer one each week. You only have to do 10. So that means I'll drop your lowest grades if you do more than 10, or you can just give yourself a light week if you want and kind of be in charge of your own schedule that way. So I take 10. Class participation is also on there. We'll talk more about that. And then there's a college-wide assessment. So there's just one writing assignment that everybody does in the whole college. And so that kind of doesn't fit in with sort of the rest of the schedule, but I add that one on at the end, just so that you're kind of aligned with everybody else. Okay, so that's the total. Reading is required in this course. The participation grades tend to emphasize quality over quantity. So if you're someone who doesn't like to talk in class very much, don't worry. I do have an option for participating online if you want to do that. And also, I tend to think of, if you have something powerful to say or you've got some questions to ask, do that. That's very much valued. Don't worry about like, oh, I didn't talk this one day in class. You don't have to talk every class period, but do try to engage in discussion where possible. If you're not someone that thinks on your feet, consider maybe engaging in the discussion online. But the participation is there, and it's partly there for just to make sure that we are all being respectful in this class. Sociology covers some really dark, heavy topics that can be really hard to talk about. And so sometimes people will get a little bit emotional, and that's totally fine. Give yourself space to feel that. Um, Step out if you need to during class, talk to me if you need to. But I do want to make sure that we're being respectful of other people's opinions, and just being really kind in this class because we do cover such sensitive topics. So that's partly why I have the participation grade as well. Um, All material is going to be available through Blackboard, so make sure you click on those modules each week to make sure you have everything you need. Always due by Sunday night at midnight. I do not accept late work in this class. I know that's kind of jarring for students at first, but I also build in a lot of flexibility in the class, so I think it actually works out pretty well. It tends to work against both you and me when I accept late work because you tend to be focusing on material that we're no longer talking about. And so it's a lot harder for you to have to recall all of that. And I'm not immersed in that. I'm usually, planning lectures a few weeks out. And so going back in time can be kind of hard on all of us. And so it's a lot easier for you if you're focusing on what we're doing now so that you're not getting further and further behind. So that's why I just don't accept late work. If you have a rough week and you need to take some time off of those writing assignments, that's why I build in flexibility. So there are more available than you actually need to do. Okay, so here's where I build in flexibility in the class, okay? It's a little bit choose your own adventure. I told you we have this midterm exam and the final. That is the default, and everyone will take the midterm exam. If you don't feel like you are an exam person, I feel like everyone is brilliant kind of in their own ways. Not everyone is a great test taker. That's totally fine. I want to give you the opportunity to show me your brilliance in whatever way kind of best fits you. And so I offer some alternative finals, and you will need to look at Syllabus Appendix A to see what those are. So I've got a bunch of options on there from challenges you can complete to research projects. But some of the challenges actually take all semester. Like there's one that's requiring you to go zero waste where you're not producing any trash for a period of, I think, a week. But one of them, I believe the fast fashion challenge takes the whole semester where you're committing to not buying clothing and everything that comes along with that. So look at those challenges now, because if you decide you want to do an alternative final like one of those, you might need to get started right away. So I want you to take a look at Appendix A this week if you can, and let me know by the end of next week if you want to do one of those. So take your time, go in course information, look at Appendix A. If you choose an alternative final, that means you're not taking the final exam, you're doing one of those. You will do either a challenge or a research paper, which will be the equivalent of the multiple choice part of the final, so 80 points, and you'll give a presentation to class. You will be the subject matter expert in whatever you choose to do. And so we need you to teach us what you learned, essentially. So if you write a paper about your challenge or your research project, this would be kind of a condensed version of that. So if you think about like what I do in class, right? I'm teaching you the textbook. So I don't stand in front of class and just read you the whole textbook, right? I kind of take the highlights out of it. I give you a couple of visuals. We sort of give a general outline. I try to make sure you understand concepts, that kind of thing. So that's what you're doing essentially for the class. You're presenting a paper. You're not reading the whole paper. You're just presenting kind of the highlights, giving us some visuals, helping us understand what you now understand from your project. So that would be 20 points. The presentation is the equivalent points of the essay part of the final exam. We'll talk more about that in class. Come talk to me if that seems interesting to you. But that is one way to kind of tailor this class to what works well for you and the way that you learn well. The other way I keep it kind of flexible is those 10 writing assignments. So there will be 14 writing assignments total, possibly more if we change things a little bit, but at least 14. So if you want to build in some flexibility at the end of the semester, complete those in the first 10 weeks. If you just have a week that's really hard where you would be asking for an extension or whatever, take that as an off week. Just give yourself that break. You guys are adults. I know you're not as old as many other college students, but I'm a college professor, so I'm just going to treat you as college students. And part of that is that I trust you to know your own schedule and to manage your time effectively. I don't want to manage it for you. And so I want you to know when you want to be doing those writing assignments and when you just need a week off. Maybe you've got a heavy week with your other classes, and that will be up to you. So you make those decisions. If you do more than 10, I will just drop your lowest grades. Everything will be due Sunday night at midnight on Blackboard. Here is how I grade all of the writing. So I'll try to give a lot of feedback at the beginning. One of my pet peeves is when students just get grades, right? And so you do the same work over and over and over again without improving. I want you to improve your writing and your analytical skills throughout this class. So I will try to give quite a bit of feedback on those first couple of writing assignments and then taper it off. You can opt in if you want more feedback, but just so that you can kind of hone your skills at analysis. With these writing assignments, I'm always kind of looking for evidence that you read the outside source or listened to it. Sometimes it's a podcast or video, that you read the whole thing. So I want like a summary of it. And then I want connections to the course material. So how does this relate to what we talked about in class? How does it relate to the chapter that we covered this week in the textbook? So always the summary and then always the connection. And then I'll grade on three things. Content. So do I see evidence that you actually read this? Do you understand the theoretical principles we're talking about? And can you provide a summary of what the outside source is? Some of these outside sources, particularly like the podcasts, I use one called Hidden Brain that kind of starts very individualistic and then it gets more sociological by the end. So if you don't listen to the whole thing, it's pretty obvious in your summary because it will sound more psychological, it'll sound more individualistic, and you don't really get to the sociological aha moment until the end. So make sure you listen through the whole thing or you read through the whole article that is the outside source. So that's the content. Can I tell that you read or listened? Clarity is your grammar. Your ideas are focused. Your writing makes sense. You're using explicit language, and I don't mean that by bad language. I mean exactly what you mean, right? You're saying exactly what you mean. You're not using vague language, that kind of thing. And then depth. We will talk about these three questions that can help us to go deeper, which you'll see in the introductory video. But you are demonstrating critical thinking here. You're going deeper. You're asking, how are we connected here? Am I implicit in this social problem? What are the power dynamics at play? Who is benefiting from this? How is it more complicated than maybe it seems on the surface, right? Are there two sides to this issue? Are there 27 sides to this issue, right? So you're kind of getting more in depth. If you can do all three of those things, that will be a perfect score on your writing. The use of AI in this class is not allowed. And part of the reason is because it's not your own words. So it's hard for you to improve your analytical writing skills when you're using an AI tool. And so sure, on the job, if you're allowed to do that, great. But when you're honing those skills, I want it to really be your words. The other reason is that AI can lead us to stereotypes, right? Because it's sort of collecting all of this information from across the internet, right? And so it's kind of what the most people think. It's not necessarily what is most accurate. So a lot of times we get stereotypes out of it, and a lot of times it's vague. So you kind of miss out on this clarity and this depth that your own words can bring to something. And when I am talking about AI, I don't just mean ChatGPT. Like a lot of students use Grammarly, for example, to improve their writing. I will caution you there, that is still considered AI in this class because oftentimes Grammarly will give you a suggestion, like try saying it this way, but then that suggestion is so vague and derivative that it's actually the exact same sentence that a bunch of other people wrote. So it's still not your own words. So avoid that, use your own words. Sorry, soapbox. Okay, so that's the writing. Late work will not be accepted. Here's the grading scale. Here is our course plan. So you might want to print this out, post this schedule somewhere so that you can make sure that you are on top of the reading and everything. And this aligns with what's going on in the modules each week. There will be one day in April. Nope, this class isn't on that day of the week, so we're good. Days that we don't have class are on there as well. Attendance and participation is very much required. The participation grade is on there as well. Modules, it's a hybrid class, so we will meet on Mondays. Thursday will be an independent work day. So find everything that you need on Blackboard. Make sure that you note that sometimes there's a quiz, sometimes there's not. They're usually really easy, just 5 questions, just to make sure that you did the reading so that you're prepared for the exams. But there are not many of those. With assignments, plagiarism or the use of AI will result in a 0 and a report of academic misconduct. So please avoid that. I really want you to learn these analytical skills on your own. Reading, again, we won't cover everything in lecture, so make sure you're doing the reading, doing the quizzes. Here's a little bit more information about the exams and how we do those. They're usually open book and open note, but they are timed. So you need to have your all your notes in order so that you know where to find everything. You will do exams on your own time. You'll have an hour for each during exam week. We'll talk about that more as we approach that. A little bit more information about me, what you can expect of me, sort of my philosophy in teaching. And that's about it. Please reach out to me. You've got my email address now. Let me know if you have any questions at all. I really look forward to meeting and getting to know all of you this semester. Thanks. Bye.